What's going on, guys? The trade rumors surrounding the New York Football Giants are heating up, and we're going to break those down in today's show. But with the trade deadline being tomorrow, make sure you are subscribed, because if the Giants trade for Jeudy or Brandin Cooks or DJ Moore, we are going to be going live on the channel, giving you all the analysis and everything you need to know about the trade. So with the trade deadline tomorrow, make sure you're subscribed. Go down right now and hit that big red button. Shout out to the real ones. You're watching New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. I'll tell you this much. Victory Mondays are a lot more fun than losing Mondays. I woke up today. It just didn't feel as good. Victory Mondays are way more fun. In today's show, we're going to break down the latest trade rumors surrounding Big Blue. We'll talk about Brandin Cooks. We'll talk about Jeudy. Brian Daboll just spoke to the media and was asked whether or not he expects the Giants to be active at the trade deadline. He said, "We'll see. Those are conversations I'll have with Schoen. We'll just take each of them as they come." So maybe the Giants will be active, maybe they won't be. We have some reports that they've already been making calls. And in today's show, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I think the Giants should make a move for a wide receiver before the trade deadline on 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday afternoon. Let's go straight to Adam Schefter. This is what he put out Sunday morning before the games got rolling. He said, "The Houston Texans are open to trading Brandin Cooks and are listening to inquiries on the veteran wide receiver. Potential destinations could include the New York Giants, Los Angeles Rams, and Minnesota Vikings." And then Jordan Renan tweeted this out this morning saying the Giants do have interest in Jeudy, but the price would have to be right. And last I checked, the Broncos wanted a lot for him. The Giants are not in position to give up high draft picks. He tweeted that out. And then I responded on Twitter with this saying, is it fair to say if the Giants don't make a move, Schoen thinks this team isn't ready to compete? Because that's what it feels like. The Giants are 6-2. They haven't been 6-2 this well of a start since 2008, 2009? It's been 12, 13 years since the Giants were relevant in the National Football League. You haven't won a playoff game since 2012. Punting on a 6-2 season would be not making a move at the trade deadline. And we're going to break all that down. But Jordan Renan quote tweeted my tweet on Twitter and said, does anyone really think they're ready to compete? The dilemma Schoen faces at the trade deadline is wanting to improve the team, but not giving up valuable draft capital unless they are for long-term moves. And that first sentence is what pisses me off. Does anyone really think they're ready to compete? What does that mean? Because you're 6-2. You're in the playoffs right now. You would play the Seattle Seahawks in round 1. You're telling me if you go out and trade for Jeudy or DJ Moore and Brandin Cooks and get back a healthy Ben Bredeson, get back a healthy Evan Neal, maybe you get Kenny Golladay something when he comes back. You're telling me you couldn't compete against that team? Since when were you not allowed to make a trade unless it made you a Super Bowl contender? That's what everybody's saying. The Giants shouldn't make a move because it's not going to make them a Super Bowl contender. And that shit, it pisses me the hell off. This is what Ralph Vacchiano, former Giants beat reporter, put out on Twitter today. He said the Giants really want to add a wide receiver. They called about Brandin Cooks. I'm told they like Jeudy. Cooks won't cost as much trade value-wise, but comes with an $18 million guaranteed salary in 2023. He said, I doubt GM Schoen would pay more than a day 3 pick for Brandin Cooks. He also said, the Giants' dilemma, of course, is one stud wide receiver could really boost their offense and make their run game more potent, make them a little bit more dangerous in the playoffs, but they have so many holes. They're still not a Super Bowl contender. Maybe it's better to keep their assets. And we kind of talked about this a second ago. But this mindset is infuriating. It literally sets a fire up under me. Because why are you not allowed to make a trade if it doesn't make you a Super Bowl contender? Were the Bills Super Bowl contenders when they traded for Stephon Diggs? No, they weren't. And then what happened 2 years later? They were Super Bowl contenders. You need to get your young quarterback someone that he can grow with. How are you supposed to get a true fair evaluation of Daniel Jones when your leading receiver is Richie James? Oh, it's so infuriating. I'm going to give you those 5 reasons why I think a trade makes sense for the Giants. But first, let's look at Jeudy and Brandin Cooks, because those two are the wide receivers that have been most linked to Big Blue. Jeudy had a big game yesterday in London. Through 8 games, he's got 30 grabs for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns. And people always say, is Jeudy really even that good? Look at what he did in 2020. 52 grabs as a rookie for 856 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that's playing with terrible quarterbacks in Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater and Brett Rippon and washed up Russell Wilson. I'm not saying Daniel Jones is some elite quarterback, but if you get him in the right system, back with Brian Dable, who was the offensive coordinator for Alabama when Jeudy was a rookie or a freshman at Alabama, you have some rollover there. You have some ties. I think Jeudy, he's not going to save the season. He's not going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL. But if you can get him for a second or a third round pick, maybe a second and a 6th, I think it's a deal that makes a whole bunch of sense. And I also think a trade for Brandin Cooks makes some sense. One of the most honestly accomplished wide receivers in the National Football League. He has 6 seasons with over 1,000 yards. And my favorite part about Brandin Cooks is he is a big play maker. He is a guy that is always adding to the explosive play tally. In 2021, he had 12 grabs of more than 20-plus yards. In 2020, he had 20 grabs of 20-plus yards. And in 2019, he had 9 grabs of 20-plus yards. And in 2018, he had 22 catches of 20-plus yards. This team lacks explosive playmakers outside of number 26. There's really no one on this roster that can go the distance when they catch the ball and puts fear in a defensive coordinator's heart besides Saquon Barkley. You need to put some players on the outside that's going to help you continue to win football games. Those preseason expectations of we just want to compete, we want to find out who Daniel Jones is, those are preseason expectations. You're 6-2. Your mindset should change. I'm not saying go all in. I'm not saying trade a first, a second, and a third round pick. But if the deal is right, if the price is right, it makes all the sense in the world for the New York Giants to go out and to add a wide receiver. And I'll give you those 5 reasons here in a second. But I want to ask you guys first. Pick one of these wide receivers to trade for. You're only going to trade for one of them. Which one would you rather see Big Blue trade for? Brandin Cooks maybe would cost you a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round pick, depending on how the salary gets broken up between the Texans and the Giants. I think Jeudy's going to cost you at the least a 2nd round pick, probably 2 day 2 picks for Jeudy. So keep that in mind when you answer this question. Pick one of these wide receivers to trade for. Type BC for Brandin Cooks or JJ for Jeudy. The Giants need to make a wide receiver. Daniel Jones had 17 passing yards at halftime yesterday, and it was because they stacked the box. They said, beat us with your practice squad wide receivers of Marcus Johnson and Richie James and David Sills. They said, we are not going to let Saquon Barkley run all over us. And they didn't. And then they didn't let him pass the ball either, because you just straight up, you couldn't. You don't have anyone on the outside that puts any fear in a defensive coordinator's heart or a defensive back's heart at all. You need to make a move, and let's go through those reasons why. The Giants wide receivers, anybody could see this. The Giants wide receivers are hurting this team. They're hindering this team's ability to call plays. They don't produce explosive plays. I mean, when you look at the stat leaders through the first half of the season, Richie James is your number 1 wide receiver, and he's caught 1 pass in the last 2 games. He has 20 receptions for 191 yards and 0 touchdowns. Darius Slayton, he's 2nd in the team in receptions with 16 receptions for 232 yards and 1 touchdown. Wan'Dale Robinson, who's only played in 4 or 5 games, is 3rd in the team in receptions with 12 and 107 yards and 1 touchdown. David Sills, he has 11 grabs for 106, and Marcus Johnson, he has 0 touchdowns, but he does have 2 drop touchdowns, so maybe that counts for some. He's got 6 grabs for 63 yards. This Giants wide receiver depth chart, it's a joke. I mean, it just really is. Marcus Johnson as your wide receiver 1 with Darius Slayton. Wan'Dale Robinson, I like him a lot, but this isn't the type of offense he was drafted to be in. He's a pace and space type of receiver. You want him in a spread out offense, not an offense that's play action focused and a guy that's supposed to just win one-on-one routes. I like Sills on my practice squad. I don't like Richie James at all. I used to like him at all, but he fumbled the game away not once but twice. Marcus Johnson, there's a reason he wasn't on a team until a couple weeks ago. And Darius Slayton, he's a good number 4, number 5. but he can't be your best wide receiver on the team. So we've showed you the stats. We've showed you the depth chart. I want you to be honest with me. Grade the Giants wide receivers on the roster right now. Get out your red pen and be honest. A, B, C, D, or F. The evaluation of Daniel Jones. That was the only thing that you needed to find out during the 2022 season, was if Daniel Jones was the guy or if Daniel Jones wasn't the guy. And how are you supposed to find that out if he's throwing to the wide receivers we just talked about? These guys have 6 drops back 2 weeks ago against the Jags, a couple drops yesterday against the Seahawks. I mean, Daniel Jones, he's completing 65% of his passes, but if he doesn't make a throw when he hits his back foot, he just tucks and runs it. He's thrown for under 1,400 yards this year, has 6 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He's done a good job of what's being asked of him. He's not really being asked to win games. He's being asked not to lose games, and he's doing that. He's been good in the fourth quarter of games this year. He's been good when he's had to be clutch. But he missed a couple of big throws yesterday, and I think adding a wide receiver on the outside is only going to help Daniel Jones and only going to help Joe Schoen get a better idea of if Daniel Jones is the guy. Because how are you supposed to get a true read on DJ if he doesn't have legit NFL wide receivers to help him out? Doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you trade for a wide receiver, Saquon Barkley's only going to get better. He's only going to become more of a weapon because you can't put 8 or 9 in the box anymore if you have a Jeudy on the outside or if you have a DJ Moore or a Brandin Cooks on the outside. You at least have to cheat that safety over just a little bit. We showed you how many explosive plays that Brandin Cooks has accounted for. You put him on the outside, the corner knows his first step has to be back. The safety knows his first step has to be back. And you put him in a play-action offense where he's able to take the top off the defense. You won't see games anymore like this where Saquon Barkley has 20 carries for 53 yards and 2.65 yards per touch. Look, I know he had a touchdown. Well, the Giants were gift-wrapped at that touchdown when Tyler Lockett fumbled the ball on the 2-yard line and Saquon punched it in. I'm happy that they punched it in the red zone. But you got to do that. Getting a receiver doesn't just help Daniel Jones. It also helps this offense, and it really helps out a guy like Saquon Barkley. I know a lot of people are saying you can't trade future draft capital for a wide receiver. Why the hell not? You got 9 draft picks in 2023. You just traded Kadarius Toney for a 3rd and 6th rounder. These are the draft picks that the Giants have in the 2023 NFL draft. You have plenty of ammunition to fill holes later in the season. And who knows that if the wide receiver the Giants are going to draft, because they will draft one, and I bet they draft maybe 2 wide receivers with some of their top 100 picks next year, who's to say that those guys are going to be good? Draft picks, they don't always hit. We know that. Go look at Kadarius Toney. We spent the 20th overall pick on him. Sometimes, if you could trade in a chance for a for sure thing, look at the Rams. I know they're in a bad spot right now, but it definitely helped them get to the top. And I'm not saying you have to make a move to be a Super Bowl contender. But can you get to the playoffs? Can you win a playoff game? Something this team hasn't done in 10 plus years? Not trading for a wide receiver is a slap in the face, in my opinion, to the fans of this organization. You're punting on the season. You're saying we're not good enough despite being 6-2. It's time to win. That's my final point. It is time to win. The New York Football Giants have been the laughingstock of the National Football League following the boat incident with Odell Beckham Jr. and Sterling Shepard. Prior this year, they had the worst record in the National Football League in that time span. You're 6-2 right now. You have a legit shot to compete in the NFC. Right now, if the season ended, you would play the Seattle Seahawks in round 1. They beat you yesterday, no doubt about it. But you're telling me you can't beat the Seahawks in the playoffs with a better wide receiver, a healthy Golladay, a healthy Evan Neal, a healthy Ben Bredeson? Get back Azeez Ojulari? This is a team that can beat the Seahawks. They can win a playoff game. Go get them a piece that would help them do that. That's why I would trade for a wide receiver. I'll ask you guys, though, because this is a two-way conversation, and I really, really value what you guys say. I go down in the comments and see what you got to say. So I want the real ones to sound off right now. Should the Giants trade for a wide receiver prior to the trade deadline tomorrow? Type T for trade and type P for pass. And remember, subscribe to New York Giants Now, because if and when the Giants make a trade, we're going to be breaking it down. We're going to get a video out faster than anybody else out there. And we are going to be going live on the channel, breaking it down, give you everything you need to know, the trade details, and the analysis. So hit that big red button and turn your notifications on so you can be notified when we go live if the Giants make a trade. 6-2. Yesterday sucked. No doubt about it. It was a game that you should have won, honestly. It's tough to win the game with turnovers. It's really tough when you turn the ball over on special teams. It's almost a death sentence and impossible to win a football game when you turn the ball over twice on special teams. Richie James isn't the only reason the Giants lost. So I felt like the offensive play calling was questionable. 7 of the first 8 plays from scrimmage were pass plays. Saquon Barkley, it didn't feel like he was going to be a pivotal piece in this game plan yesterday. I go back to that drive before halftime. That's when I felt like the Giants really lost the game. They were down 3 with 1 minute and 30 seconds left in 2 timeouts, and they essentially just need the ball out to go to half, and they were getting the ball back right there. I felt like they should have attacked and tried to get 3 right there, going into halftime, getting the ball back. But that game's over. We're on to the bye week, and we're on to Houston after that. Shout out to the real ones. I appreciate everyone that always makes New York Giants Now a part of their day today. Long video today. Had a lot to say. If you made it this far in the show, go ahead and type real one down in the comment section.